Christmas with the Coopers, which is also known as Love the Coopers, sounded like it could have been really interesting. Unfortunately, I I was really let down and I found it to be quite rubbish. The cast brilliant and is definitely a pull factor. So even when the characters on screen and the action were all quite dull and uninteresting, I at least had some good cast to keep me company. This was released originally in 2015 and is directed by Jessie Nelson, written by Stephen Rogers, and is narrated by Steve Martin, who plays Rags the dog. Now, it's not uncommon for a film of this style to be narrated by a dog, and I don't mind it. But sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like the dog knew too much. The dog knew things that the dog wouldn't have been witness to, so how the dog could possibly narrate certain events to us, I have no idea. And usually that I can overlook that. But when the rest of the film is pretty poor, that's just one more thing that's a notch against the recommendation. This is all about, of course, the family members of the Coopers and the various stories that happen in the run up to Christmas. Such as, well, primarily the overarching story is the relationship between Charlotte and Sam, the matriarch and the patriarch of the household, played by the fantastic Diane Keaton and John Goodman. I loved their on screen chemistry. When the characters argued, I really felt it. It was quite comedic at times. I just thought their on screen presence was compelling, and I mean, what else could you ever possibly expect from Diane Keaton and John Goodman? Certainly, they were my favourite characters. Their aspect of the narrative I found to be a little interesting. We then kind of switch back and forth between their story and their children. One of them's kind of traveling home for Christmas. Will they get there? Will there be pitfalls? Someone's got a relationship issue. They all have their own little problems or narratives to tell via the dog, of course. But ultimately, everything comes back to I was going to say Sam and Diane, Sam and Charlotte, John Goodman and Diane Keaton. And I just, now first, it's not an anthology film. They are all very strongly connected and they do intertwine. But at the same time, I don't necessarily like that kind of film where you have separate stories that are just a little bit too segmented. So first of all, that's something that I don't like. If you like that kind of film, maybe you'll get on with it. But I also feel like the individual narratives, apart from that of Charlotte and Sam, were just dull and I didn't care and I wasn't that bothered. They did give us some good casting, Ed Helms, Amanda Seyfried, Alan Arkin, certain things to keep us going, Olivia Wilde's in it. But I just didn't care about most of the characters or their outcomes or the results of their journeys or what kind of Christmas they would have. I found the narrative to be ultimately boring, disjointed, not funny, not entertaining. The dog was cute. I'll give the puppy, oh my goodness, we get to see the dog as a puppy to begin with. He is actually a fully grown dog, but the puppy was the cutest thing ever. But don't give dogs as pets for Christmas, please. It's not the worst film in the world. The characters, although mostly dull, are very, relatively well developed. The casting is obviously great. The editing is fine. I don't like how separated a lot of the character stories are, but the editing of, jumping back and forth between them makes some sense at least. In terms of being festive, yeah, we have a lot of festive colours and things. It's not the most Christmassy film, but I don't think this would have worked if it was set in a random April or something. It does have to be a Christmas film for it to work. I'd say give it a watch if there are aspects of what I've said that sound appealing to you. If you love films directed by dogs, I'm losing my mind, films narrated by dogs, or if you like films where you have various stories that are intertwined, or indeed if you like any of the cast, give it a go and let me know what you think. You might like it. But if you're not a fan of any of those aspects ordinarily, I'd say give it a miss, because it's absolutely nothing special.